grades that kids are getting, they cannot be trusted. Is that common in the school system now?
This is a national issue right now that's really being flagged.
Now, I've been studying education a little over 10 years.
The national media, parents across our country overestimate how well their kids are doing in school. We can have kids be straight A students, complete their A through G requirements, they get to college, and all of their classes are remedial.
The Carey tried to ambush the extortion scheme.
What does that mean?
I don't even know. I can't say that. Try to ambush the extortion scheme.
What does that mean?
I don't know. The university student procured an off-campus accommodation via the platform Unishack.
Because when they take the college placement tests, they are not at a college level. So this is happening constantly, and it's actually one of the reasons that first-generation kids, low-income kids of color who get to college don't stay in college.
There was a study in 2018 that showed that black boys and brown boys were more likely to be put in special education. So during the time of this study, they found out that 80% of special needs and special education students were black or Hispanic. Same study in 2014 also showed by the 8th grade, only 17% students in 8th grade could read at their grade level. Then, when you look at the achievements of African Americans, there was a study in 2016 that showed that African Americans are overrepresented in low-paying college majors. So even when black and brown students do get into college, for whatever reason, they get into programs that don't produce high income. The reason I started this initially is because of this article that I read, that it said in California that 75% of the boys could not read at grade level.
You can look at 3rd grade reading levels and then predict how many prisons need to be built. I would say that system has some flaws.
Based on how many kids read at grade level, looking at 3rd grade reading data determine how many prison beds they're going to need to build. So currently, about 2 in 10 of our black and brown students are reading at grade level.
So you grew up in the Bay Area, in Oakland, and you went to 11 schools. What did you see? What do you think is the challenges these schools are facing?
You know, a lot of people like to talk about Kentucky in a bad way. I used to live in this place called Paducah, Kentucky, but they were so adamant about reading, like making us do reading competitions and reading out loud and things like that. So when I got to my school in Oakland, I had this really thick Kentucky accent. It was very thick, hard to understand, but it almost resulted in me being put in special education. And so I got lucky, and I stood up and read, and I was the best reader in the class. So in that moment, I went from being earmarked to go to a special education class to then being a part of the GATE program, the Gifted and Talented program. I had A's and B's and AP English classes, but then I was in remedial English when I went to university.
People are so painfully illiterate in this country that you will use a word, like let's use the word juxtaposition as an example. You will make a post using the word juxtaposition and get comments like, really just throwing words together like it means something. I'm not reading all that. Really just using words.
2020, it said that California couldn't account for billions of dollars of education funds went missing. Nobody got in trouble. Nobody went to jail. Nobody was arrested. But you have thought that Mississippi kids have a higher reading literacy than California kids. It says in 2026, they're finally getting the picture. They're saying that California politicians wrongly fixate on education spending instead of education and comprehension results.
Because I think, what are all the careers out there? You know, how are you successful in college or career if you can't bring your proficiency up to grade level? When I go to a board meeting, it is so rare that you actually hear, how are students doing? Immigrant, they're embracing, they want everyone to succeed, but our actions as leaders need to line up to that. And when we are leaving 80% of our black and brown students behind and out of reading at grade level, those actions don't match up with the words.
Is it the different schools?
There's a lot of correlation. If you put our proficiency, one thing that we did to really motivate the parents was show them, if you map out the schools in the city, just geographically on a map, you can see more of almost all the schools that are green schools where there's a lot of proficiency, they're in the higher income.
Some of the grades that kids are getting, they cannot be trusted. Is that common in the school system now?
This is a
grade inflation is an issue that's plaguing America. It is a federal fraud because it lowers the standards of academia. It increases success rate. That way, local municipalities and education departments can get funding, but you're supposed to get funding based off of grades. So if you're basically fraudulent giving out grades, you're fraudulently getting funding. That hurts the child, that defrauds the government, and then that leaves a society of professionals who actually probably aren't even qualified to be in school or in the positions that they're in.
This is a national issue right now that's really being flagged in the national media. Parents across our country overestimate how well their kids are doing in school. This tells us something is broken within our education system in the way that we're communicating with parents. We can have kids be straight A students, complete their A through G requirements, they get to college and all of their classes are remedial.
Because it passes students that don't meet the standards in order to keep collecting funds, whether the student passes or not. That means that school districts are more concerned with funding, filling the seats, regardless if those that are filled with the seats are educated.
Because when they take the college placement tests, they are not at a college level. So this is happening constantly, and it's actually one of the reasons that first generation kids, low income kids of color who get to college don't stay in college. And you can't even write an essay that is a passing essay in your English class, right, at a college level. So we have this huge disconnect between these grades that are getting sent home and the actual proficiency level. To actually share the data for Black and Brown students, that just about under 50% were eligible to apply to a college. And kids, their minds were blown. They said, we had no idea. How come nobody told us this? I got to go talk to my cousin who goes to this other school where they have really low A through G rates. I got to tell him and make sure he's getting into the right classes so that he won't be left out of being able to apply to college. Absolutely. I remember a student with really severe disabilities who came into our school in kindergarten. His doctor said, look, he's just really not going to be able to learn very much. We're just going to integrate him so he can have a good experience in school. We partnered as a team. We worked so closely with that family as we worked with the medical staff that he had. That kid soared. He was reading on grade level by first grade.
Puzzled. Because the funding amount we are spending in California is almost $23,000,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more than $23,000 per kid per year,
Mm-hmm.
which used to be $10,000
right.
like 10 years ago or 12 years ago per kid per year.
Yeah.
So we have invested a lot more in the public education. What's going on with the funding?
Yeah.
Where does it go?
California lets the lottery department steal from kids. The state of California had $10 million invested in private prisons. California teachers who teach our children had $12 million invested in private prisons. California let the Department of Education lose millions of dollars. No one got in trouble. California found out that the money that it was given to the Department of Education wasn't going towards the neediest students. Nobody got in trouble. 90% of the kids in California can't do math proficiency, and 80% of the kids in California can't read at grade level. Nobody's in trouble, even though millions of dollars is missing. In California, 14% of arrears are kept, compared to 3.8% federally. This means that the majority of money collected in the arrears goes to the state, not to mothers and children.
Part of what California is doing right now is really embracing a community schools model, where it's not just the academic needs that are attended to in the school, right? There's social emotional supports, there's mental health supports, there's even health clinics in our schools. There's a great new model of linked learning where kids are getting career internships when they're in high school, they're doing work-based learning.
while we're having the issue with proficiency, while we're not doing the basics.
Correct.
So I don't know. You tell me what you guys think about all of this. Education is in shambles.